Hello everyone, follow me as I take you on a journey and introduce to you the key people and key events that made history, and most importantly, Black history, right here in Portobello Road. It's hard to believe that the road that I'm standing on more than 300 years ago was just a winding country path. This winding country path went by the name of Green's Lane. Here's a fun fact for you. The name Portobello actually came from a war that resided in the country of Panama, in the city of Portobello. The seeds of the war was planted when a captain of a British merchant ship who goes by the name of Robert Jenkins got his ear severed by a group of Spanish sailors, thus stemming the War of Jenkins' Ear. The war then came to a halt when Admiral Edward Vernon ruled the Spanish town of Portobello, making him a hero in the eyes of his people. 1864 saw the establishment of the Metropolitan Railways and the opening of Ladbroke Grove Station. The population of Portobello started to grow, along with more buildings and more apartments and flats being built. At this time, Dominican nuns actually bought the farm, and then they started selling products to the local people, thus establishing Portobello and Golborne Market as we know it today. Golborne Road, a road of such diversity in history, also known as Little Morocco to most residents, due to the amount of Moroccan restaurants and stores that reside on this road. It's also the home of the Portuguese and the Spanish, who sell lovely pastries in their restaurants. Here's a fun fact. The Germans was actually the first group of immigrants to reside on this road, establishing the first ever butchers and bakery shops. But another group of immigrants made their mark in this very road, and they played a huge pivotal point in history, the Windrush generation. In 1948, the British government wanted to address the lack of labor in the country. So to fill in the employment gaps, they invited over tens of thousands of West Indian migrants from different parts of the Caribbean, such as Trinidad and Tobago, Dominica, Barbados, and Grenada. It seemed like the land of opportunity for Black people to follow their dreams and achieve it. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case at all. It was very hard to be a Black person in the country, and they wasn't really getting the dream jobs that they really wanted to have. And it was very difficult for Black people to climb up the property ladder. Racial tensions and abuse grew. In 1959, a young Black carpenter who goes by the name of Kelso Corcoran on this very road was murdered in cold blood in a racially motivated attack. Black community was absolutely outraged by this tragic turn of events. They didn't get any justice, and these days, it seemed very difficult for light to be shed on the situation. Someone did try to shed light to the situation. Trinidadian-born civil rights Black activist Claudia Jones. In 1959, Claudia Jones established the first ever indoor carnival. The indoor carnival was based in St. Pancras Town Hall. It sparked a lot of attention from peers and the BBC itself, broadcasting the events nationally. It also marked the first time where calypso artists from the Caribbean performed at her event. Claudia Jones had an inspiring statement for indoor carnival events. A people's art is the genesis of their freedom. Unfortunately, Claudia Jones passed away, so the indoor carnivals couldn't continue. But there was somebody who was inspired to bring carnival from indoors to the streets, a woman who goes by the name of Roland Laslett. In 1966, Roland Laslett decided to bring more diversity into the carnival by incorporating her Native American influences and also inviting many different people from Europe and other countries. She contacted the local authorities and the West Indian community. One of those people was a Trinidadian-born musician and a respected jazz player who goes by the name of Russell Henderson. He was inadvertently responsible of becoming the first ever pioneer of the Notting Hill Carnival. It all started when Mr. Russell Henderson was just in a park, knocking his steel pan. He didn't believe that it was very much engaging, so then he went out on the streets of Portobello Road, and he called it making a rounds. When he walked from Portobello Road to Notting Hill Gate, the sound of the pan sparked in many West Indian residents' ears, and the sound reminded them of home. So many residents made a social gathering and started following Mr. Russell Henderson, thus the birth of Notting Hill Carnival, as we most likely know it. Mr. Leslie Palmer. In the early 1970s, he was responsible of incorporating the first ever stationary sound systems from Jamaica. He was also responsible for getting more steel pan bands from different parts of the Caribbean and more parts of Trinidad. And he was also responsible for making the crossover between calypso and soca. This man here is a real pioneer. And that's why Tavistock Square is also known as Carnival Square, because of these four pioneers who established the Notting Hill Carnival. I now stand on All Saints Road. More than 35 years ago, community black activists opened up the Mangrove Restaurant right here on this road. The Mangrove Restaurant served as a social gathering for many black activists and many celebrities. Unfortunately, this served as an attraction to the Metropolitan Police, who raided the restaurant on numerous occasions. The black community had enough and was sick and tired of this blame game. So they got over 150 residents to march to the Metropolitan local police station. And let's just say things violently kicked off. 9 people was arrested on that day. One of those 9 people was Frank Critchlow. The trial marked the first ever acknowledgement of racial motivation from the Metropolitan Police. Not many people know this, but this building that I stand in front of right here many, many years ago used to be a church, which then turned into a Madame Tussauds wax factory. But it also played a huge pivotal point in black music history. Founder of Island Records, Chris Blackwell, invited many famous music artists from around the world to record right here in this very building. Bob Marley's Exodus was one of the famous hits that was recorded here, and also Band Aid recorded Do They Know It's Christmas. I'm now at our very last stop, the Tabernacle. In 1887, this was just a Christian Pentecostal church, but today, this serves as the heart to the local black community. It's the home of the Mangrove Steel Band. It's also the 26th year anniversary of the Portobello Dance School. It's also a place where you could come and socialize and learn more about history and enjoy yourself some lovely West Indian food. This place shows you can never take away the power from empowerment. So that about wraps it up for the Portobello Road Black History Walk. Thank you for watching, and you could pay a visit to the area to learn more.
You make this film. But I thought it was a bit vainglorious of me to suggest to you. But if you know someone, I like the films you make, Roland. And I'm at a tipping point, a turning point, where I know I'm not going to stay in that shop forever. I can't, it'll kill me probably. So I thought I like it, so selfishly I thought I'd like it documented. And you know, you've got a history of making films about marginal characters in declining industries, which I think, you know, I'm going to nick that. You said it. And I don't know if I'm a marginal figure. I'm certainly in a declining industry. I'm a declining figure. I'm a declining figure in a marginal industry. I probably will take it to stop. When I'm away from it, thinking about how much stuff I've got to sell, all those transactions, one at a time, and I'm worried I haven't got enough time left to sell everything. I'm a sort of a junk socialist in a way, because I do believe in the redistribution of stuff properly. I could see how I could look like a hoarder, but I really do want to flog at least 2/3 of what I've got. This is going to be one of those days, I think, when I get my slightly broken down people coming, offering me stuff, and no real customers, just people offering me stuff. So the bank's going the wrong way with the bank balance. We'll see.
Actually, will look good there. Yeah.
Do you take 45 for the two?
Can I have a bit more?
You said 50 with 25 each?
Yes. 48.
Yes, exactly.
I think the story of being unwanted and then being rescued is a story that's very dear to James.
It could easily be, well, I don't know, it could be just after the Second World War, Or
In some ways, the more unwanted something is, the more he gets from loving it.
Do you take card or no?
I don't take cards.
I
no.
need to go get some cash.
Yeah.
So you think about them.
Well,
And I'll
I
go
got a
get-
price on 1 or 2 of them. I thought.
Well, they're those prices.
Oh yes, okay.
He loves things particularly when they're unwanted. So if something's then wanted by somebody else, i.e. they want to buy it, that's problematic for him, because do they love the stuff as much as he loves it? Sometimes he interrogates people about what they're going to do with the stuff. So he jokes about it, but it is a bit like he's like a social worker putting things on placement. Because he's caught in a bit of a weird logic of, I need to make a living, so I can't sell that for £10 because it costs me £20 to keep it. So he keeps it, then it costs him £50 to keep it. I mean, the whole thing is, he's treating this stuff like it's diamonds, and some of it's not worth a lot. Worst case scenario, he could just go around making more of a mess, and eventually he'll be forced to sell this house, and he'll leave a massive big warehouses of hoarding stuff that someone will have to sort out when he is no longer.
3 o'clock. The production meeting is at 3 o'clock. The much anticipated production meeting is at 3 o'clock.
What's this production meeting about?
It's about how Karen's lent me some money in order to facilitate the move to the countryside, the big barn that I'm going to, and because I'm paying double rent for a bit, and it's fairly crippling financially. So, but she's attached conditions to the loan, which is that she gets to hear progress and control progress and boss me about, really.
So the agreement is you've got this big barn out near Cirencester, which you're paying £400 a month for, and it will only work if you move stuff from what you have in London to there and stop paying so much rent in London.
I could start moving stuff there later today into the back of the van and travel down to the barn tomorrow.
So how many van loads do you think that a unit is?
It could be one.
It could be one.
Could be.
If you think the West Norwood unit would fit into a van load, then you're saving more money if you take
It
that
won't
first.
fit into a van load, I'm kidding myself.
One of the conditions I lent you the money on was that by Christmas...
The upstairs room is a bedroom again.
Yeah.
Right.
And the pile of stuff that sits in the living room is not there, so that the living room can be used for social occasions.
Okay.
By November the 25th, you, James, will move garages 6 and 13, which includes your 2 cars, okay?
No, not 2 cars, 1 car.
Are you managing to not take any new stuff in?
There's one thing I took in which I just shouldn't have, but as I already photographed, it'll go. It's a guitar. I thought, why did have I taken it's a Yamaha, it's good.
Why did you take it in?
I don't know, there's just these 2 guys, they're next door neighbours, the Jamaican people.
How are you feeling spirit-wise about it all? How are you feeling in
I'm
yourself?
feeling excited about getting on the road with this stuff and getting things done.
Good.
And I'm feeling excited about the forthcoming Labour government.
Okay. If you get asked to do something you fancy doing, you just have to say no.
No social life.
And no Labour Party meetings while this is happening.
I have to do Labour Party meetings.
Okay.
Sorry. I mean, thank you. Right, thanks.
All right.
That's why
My concern is you've got Roland making a documentary about you.
didn't have to
and
do the shot.
Do you know what my gut feeling is?
Yeah. No.
That you're play acting. I want to hear you say it with some conviction that you are not going to bring any more stuff into the house and that you're going to honour your word about emptying that bedroom and the living room. Say look here.
I am going to honour my word. It's written down.
But your word is not.
Here it is. The bedroom in Dalberg Road will be emptied sufficiently by December the 17th so that the bed can be slept in. That's a very good contract. So that the bed can be slept in. The pile of things in the living room will be relocated so this pile is not there.
Okay. And the fact is, if it doesn't, I'm just going to put it out in the front yard so it has to go. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the kind of language you understand.
Yeah.
James's hoarding does scare me, and I do call it hoarding now because I think he needs a bit of a reality check. I mean, I think we tend to put on, I think they call it transitional objects, don't they? When you invest something, you invest meaning into objects. The weird thing is he sees himself as a victim to it as well. You know, he's a victim of his own making. Because he keeps blaming it on international capitalism. He says, you don't think I want to live like this? There's a weird they made me do it thing about it. When I met him, we were friends, and then I ended up saving him from near drowning in a bad surfing situation in a winter sea.
Now I'm drowning in stuff, yeah.
I think having a shop gives him a performance role. He's got an audience.
Oh, hello, darling. A lot of actors say hello, darling, a lot. Do you know why that is? Because they know so many people in any year that they can't remember everybody's names. You know, so they go, oh, hello, darling. And when Mummy and Daddy do that, it's because they've forgotten your name.
I think I like the colour of the other one more.
You like the colour of this more?
One of the reasons why I think James needs the stuff is because I think he relates through stuff. Because I think he's actually quite a shy person, and I think that telling stories about stuff and the interaction around stuff is the way he has learnt to relate.
I do think that there's something wrong with me. I think that things have feelings. This is on its way to being emptied.
We're kind of sold a minimalist kind of, you know, nice and clean, sharp edges, wipe away things, you know, look forward, keep moving. His is the opposite. It's like hold on to things because the marks, the patina of life is on the objects you use. If you have got fine old objects, they have wear and tear on them. They have marks, you know, from previous owners.
But on the other hand, you could say it's patina. This will clean up. On the other hand, that's rather lovely, isn't it?
And new stuff from IKEA doesn't have patina. Partly he represents this thing of, ironically, having less stuff and treasuring it. The problem is he has too much and he values everything. You know, this old chewed off pencil is beautiful because I say it is. Well, yeah, but no one else thinks it's beautiful.
To her, it's an amorphous mass in the way, ruining her home. And I can really relate to that. So I have shown her the front door. I said, look, you could just walk out of that and go and get somewhere else to live if you want. I shouldn't have said that, really, should I? I've been tied to this shop, you see. I've been tied to myself. And the thing that's really nice about the barn is not just, you know, the relief of having somewhere to go that's more spacious, but getting out and about a bit more. The idea was, got the barn in the West Country, and to move all the higgledy-piggledy places I've got here and expensive places down there. Well, I've done about a third of it. I've moved about a third of what I've got. I've shut down one unit out of 9. What's happened is the new place is on the floor, full up. It's not completely full up, it's just full up, and I haven't organised. It's not a total mess. I know where everything is. Well, I don't know where everything is, but obviously know where a lot is. I need racking, and I've got height in this place, but I've got the racking for the place is in another storage place with things on it, and I was going to do that one last, but I might need to bring that forward because then I can put things up higher. And if I built a mezzanine, but of course to build a mezzanine in this barn you have to have it quite empty for builders. Now I happen to like storage. I'd like to be a museum probably with state funding. That's what I'd really like. You know, when we get a new Prime Minister, socialists and all the rest of it, I could be I could just look at that.
The overview is you're paying nearly £38,000 out in rent a year. And did you hear the way that I felt about the £10,000? I would like a swimming holiday. I would like a camper van. But why am I lending you £10,000 to pay rent, which is you've run out already? And actually, the last meeting
really run out, Karen.
The last meeting we had, it frightened me because James felt a bit like a drug addict asking for money because he said to me, "I've run out of money. I need more. Having this chaotic shop, it gives him attention. It gives him the attention he needs.
People love the shop being chaotic.
When I yesterday, in a fit of desperation, I felt scared. A friend told me about a place called Hoarding UK.
UK.
And I phoned them, and they said, we can't help him unless he asks for help. And I felt sort of relieved that someone who knows, they said if he gets in touch with us, we can give him free help. We can help him.
You're not very forgiving on them.
I will only agree to you carrying on paying me 250 quid back a month
Right.
if you make serious plans with serious deadlines and get some help to acknowledge that you have some hoarding behaviour. You're not a hoarder. You have some.
I'm a saver and a seller.
You have some hoarding behaviour which has caused problems for you, and if you're getting.
I do like hoards.
If you're getting some help.
I mean, I've got a hoard of books up there. Hoard of books. I love that hoard of books.
Unless James, I'm going to say this to camera, unless James has in writing and has put a notice to quit on, and that gets his and shows some serious.
I want to get out of these places. I can't stand wasting my money. I can't stand wasting my money.
Can you please
all right? I'm wasting my money on horrible landlords. The council
So
are the worst.
as you can see, James not only fills up space, he also talks all the time, which is another way of filling up space.
You've talked for ages, Karen. We're sharing
I
space
am
now.
upset that I have tried to help this man for so long, and actually, he doesn't think about. What I realise is desperate people do desperate things, and he's capable of. I've got a point where I don't really trust him because he's so desperate that he could renege.
So how did you feel about that conversation you just had with
It's
Karen?
okay when it's done like that, but I don't like being bossed about by my partner. I also think this whole thing of, attention to detail, no overview. I'm quite aware of the difficulties I've got into. I really like being a hoarder, if that's the case. If this is what hoarding is, I like being a hoarder. I like the processing of old stuff and saving it. I've just got out of kilter, very, very, very badly, admittedly. But I don't think hoarding is the right term for me.
Hoarding UK are going to speak to me. I think they've realised that James's vague emails, I think they realised that if they support me, then they'll have contact with him. If you have professionals on your side saying this man has got a problem, you need to go with him gently and not just treat him like he's a debonair millionaire. Then you've got some slack. Shop. $1,250 a month. What's the biggest price?
Catford self-storage, 420.
Garage number?
12.
So that's 156 as well.
Yeah.
You're moving 2 cars, you said.
That's car spares.
So how many cars have you got?
I've got 2 cars, 2 Alphas and 2 Saabs.
You said, I've got 2 cars, and that's moving
Okay, so what? Don't punish me.
No, I'm not punishing, I'm just saying.
That's packed with spares.
How many van loads is that, car parks?
I don't know, Karen.
How do you feel just now?
Alarmed.
But is there part of you that's relieved, or just all alarmed?
Alarmed. Nicely alarmed.
I think there's an exhibition here at the end of this process. Exhibition of all the artwork.
No, don't say that to him because he's kept every single fucking note I've ever written. Do you know I've stopped writing notes to you because you keep them?
And all the other girlfriends.
It's pathetic, and all the other girlfriends. That's all. I mean, the thing is, James keeps the trails of relationships because he doesn't keep the relationships. That's all he's got. It's like a slug. He's only got trails. It's got no actual.
How do you feel like? Do you like that?
I think it's great. The way
analogy of the
I do. I don't know why it makes me laugh. Karen's got a certain amount of insight. She's very good on overview, but she doesn't understand the detail of Weber carburetors. A Weber carburetor is extremely delicate. It's like a medical instrument. So when you go to mend it, overhaul it, fix it, you can do it out.
Working like a dog to pay rent when you could be if you didn't.
I've got to get out of the Catford storage place because that has got 500 square foot of stuff and it's pretty packed.
Growing old happens quicker than you expect it to. I think you always think when you're younger, you think growing old is another land, another country that you'll eventually go to when you have to. And then before you know it, you're half there and you're you've got one foot in and you're like, oh, I'm no longer a young person, I'm one of the older people. Then I can see how the comfort of having something that reminds you of when you were 10, like all these dinky toys that you can see behind. That's a classic men's time travel, isn't it? You pick up a dinky toy and you're back to being whatever age. I think I'm locked in an attempt to rescue James, and James is locked in an attempt to rescue stuff. Yeah, I don't want to keep rescuing him. Let's see if he learns how to swim. The plan he's got is he's got this lock-up in Cirencester out of London because he's thinking of moving out of London. My thing is, well, look, just severely cull your stuff and only move some of it. Because I can't, just to get the rent thing down. And I think in the process of moving stuff, I think he's going to sicken himself so much because it's such hard work that I think that's waking him up.
When they come to start moving stuff, they're thinking about everything, all of it.
Yeah.
And that's the overwhelming aspect of what we call the hoarding monster from our point of view. It's this monster that goes, like, I'm so vast and overwhelming, you can't do anything about me.
Yeah.
And that really does put hoarders back, because that's the anxiety. It's like, if I touch it, if I move it,
I'll never be able to find it again.
I won't find it. I might need it. I'd have to go out and buy it again. There's all that sort of issue, and that's what it does. That's what the amount, and they have that in their minds all the time.
Yeah, no, I can tell that he does that, and it's horrible. I know I meet that monster fairly regularly.
I collapsed overnight about 9 days ago with a condition called pancreatitis. I do think the way of life's got a lot to do with this. I don't know why the world to me seems so helpless in being able to fix some of their own issues with, disposal of goods. Because, I have carried the world on my shoulders with this a bit. And if I don't quit it, it will quit me and eject me away from this, mortal coil. So this is a turning point where I have to regard my own life as far more valuable than moth-eaten blankets and scruffy bits of metal. Lots of people wrote about being overwhelmed and held by and dictated to by stuff. But actually you've got to have people who are masters of this universe, and I'm a master of the universe. I've got slightly out of control, and I have to regard this as another big challenge. And I want a yard with an architectural salvage area and a 1,000 square foot warehouse where people can wander around. So I'll have to get out of here.
So everything's all right here,
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we said, no, it's not all right.
It's not all right.
No, I've got to sell my house and get out.
So the last time you filmed down here, James hadn't managed to get out of any of his storage and had run up a lot of debts. What's happened is the house has been on the market and we've been offered the asking price for it. The shop has got a big closing down sign in it, which I made. He's negotiated the shop to be taken over by a Mexican hairdresser. His idea is, and her idea I think, is to be mainly hairdressers with a bit of junk in it, so that allows him to have a gradual exit, because he's got an awful lot of stuff to move. Maybe, it's like, sometimes you go past shops and you go, how does that shop make a living? Maybe there's loads of businesses that don't really they're not economically viable. It's just a reason, it's a way to be on the planet and give your life meaning.
Familiarity of an area you really love and letting it go, but it's like letting go of life. You have to let go, you have to move on. And I've been here long enough.
But letting go, I have to say, it's not your strong point, is it, in terms of things, you know, letting go.
No, and the house is a thing, isn't it?
I think I view this more as it's a journey that we all have to ask ourselves, when are we being neurotic and when are we living life to the full? And when, you know, when do you catch yourself, you know, like you're making this film, when do you go, I'm just endlessly collecting for the sake of it, and actually what am I trying to say? You know, it's there's a line, isn't there, that we step over and come back from.
And do you know what someone suggested to me? You know, I went to see someone very wise about what I'm going to do about my predicament now, having finally been, you know, facing bankruptcy. And I went to Peter, and he knows me well, and he said, sell a car. And I said, you must be out of your mind. Sell a car? Those beloved cars, are you kidding? Hello. I get this amazing stuff, and it needs more space to display it. So instead of thinking, oh, woe is me, how am I going to get rid of all this? Again, I started thinking the opposite. I started thinking, this is just fantastic. The stock I've managed to get every time, these strange houses, these strange bohemian people who lived in them. So it's odd, quirky stuff. And all it needs is displaying better in a sort of bigger warehousey sort of place. And I just felt very positive about it. I thought, I want to continue doing this. Having said that, I don't really want any more stock, but it reminded me how amazing some of the stuff is. It's quirky and weird. Auction houses don't stock it. It's the sort of stuff you get down Portobello Road, you know. Only my prices are about a third of that a lot of the time.
Moths. Men. Two very different species. But what if there were a third species, combining characteristics of the other two? Might it look something like this? Or this? Or might it be more like this drawing, handed in to local police in Homeland, Alabama, accompanied by the following eyewitness statement.
I seen this big Birdman kind of thing as I was driving home about 1 a.m. last night. It flew in front of my car, and then it flew away. I wasn't drunk or anything, and I swear this, my signed statement, is 100% true.
Early local news reports suggested the creature might have been A. a large bat, B. a very big owl, or even C. a ginormous flying squirrel. But there would soon be other sightings that would rule out all three of those possibilities.
Atlanta, Georgia. A young woman moves into a high-rise apartment. Having been presented with the housewarming gift of a large candle, she leaves the candle burning in the living room window while she goes into the kitchen to make a late-night snack. And then...
I'd barely been out of the room a minute when I thought I heard something bumping against the window. And that seemed a bit odd because I was 15 floors up. So I went to have a look and saw what looked like a man with wings banging his head against the glass over and over and over.
Ow! 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 Ow!
This went on all night.
Ow!
It was a big candle.
Over the following weeks, there were several reports of a man-sized flying creature hovering around street lamps. Once it became apparent that the creature was drawn to light, the only possible conclusion was that he must be some kind of gigantic moth. and so the creature became known as the Moth Guy, for legal reasons because the name Mothman had already been taken.
But where did the Moth Guy come from?
I have personally read several posts on the internet about a cave housing a secret lab in which the CIA performed genetic experiments designed to create a flying soldier. And that cave, that cave where these experiments were done is only 15 miles from Homeland, Alabama. There's no way that's a coincidence.
Is the Moth Guy a genetically engineered flying soldier? A trained CIA assassin? Or is the Moth Guy something less physical?
I was contacted by a lady who had been experiencing poltergeist phenomena for several months. This was something I frequently encountered in my line of work, but this case was unusual, in that the phenomena seemed to be centered around the destruction of the lady's clothes. It had begun when she returned home one evening to find large bite marks in her best sweater.
And that was just the start. Over the next few weeks, just about everything I owned that was made of natural fibers had been more or less devoured, and I was forced to replace everything with polyester.
One of the main tools I rely upon in my investigations is EVP, electronic voice phenomena, which allows disembodied spirits to communicate verbally. So I went to the lady's house and asked my standard set of questions. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to us? Are you human? Why have you attached yourself to this woman? And when I played back the recording later, this is what I heard. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to us?
Yes.
Are you human? No. Why have you attached yourself to this woman?
Because her light was on.
I am familiar with that particular case, and based on my own investigations, I can tell you it's not that unusual. For example, I'm aware of a man who was arrested for indecent exposure because his clothes had been eaten. I was able to obtain 2 photos of this man taken in the week before his arrest, at which point his clothes were visibly well chewed, but not yet fully destroyed. And then there was the incident at Debbie's World of Wool.
Debbie's World of Wool was a knitting supply shop in the small town of Sugar Tree, Wisconsin. Sugar Tree has always been the kind of place where there's no crime and nothing ever happens. Until the night that Debbie's World of Wool was not only broken into, but their entire stock appeared to have been eaten.
Here we have 2 photos of Debbie's World of Wool, taken before and after the break-in. As you can see, the after photo clearly shows this debris on the pavement, which laboratory analysis later confirmed to be fluff.
And the strange thing was, though the shop had CCTV, nothing showed up. The tape was completely blank.
Though some might say this blank tape was the result of a technical fault, others point to it as undeniable proof that the culprit was a non-corporeal being who could not be captured on film. But is a non-corporeal being who eats wool purely a modern phenomenon? Or does it date back to ancient legend?
In the west of England, locals speak in hushed tones of a wool-eating spirit, usually depicted with wings and horns whose name they dare not utter. No, we don't say his name in these parts. As the saying goes, speak his name 3 times and you lose your jumpers. Speak his name a 4th time and you lose your cardigan too. And the name they are so afraid to say is Mr. Woolly.
Might this Mr. Woolly and the Moth Guy be one and the same? Here we have an artist illustration of the wool-eating spirit of Cornish legend, depicted with his traditional horns. Now, let's see what happens if we adjust the aspect ratio of those horns. Some might call that compelling evidence. Is the moth guy real, or is the moth a myth? You decide.
I have not only seen the dog-headed man, he carried my newspaper home for me.
Ow! 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 Ow!